Hello and welcome. I'm Ryan, the general manager of the Montreal Expos, and I thought I would do a little 60-second season review for PSD, an online league where general managers all across the country compete to be the best general manager and take home the World Series crown. So how this is going to work is it's going to be 60 seconds for each team. It's going to be a three-part series. We're going to start with the bottom 10 teams, the worst ones. Then we're going to go to the middle, the teams that maybe just miss out in the playoffs, and then obviously your top 12 teams, your teams that made the playoffs, your teams that everybody around PSD is talking about. And so it's only fitting as the GM of a bottom tier team that we start as Drake did from the bottom, and we start with the worst team in the league, the San Diego Padres. The San Diego Padres, GM'd by Nolan. And, I really wanted to talk about a key player here, Dougie Scoons, mostly because his name is incredibly fun to say, but also that, he didn't have a great season. He was out with a tender elbow and an oblique strain, so maybe Nolan is a little concerned about the health of his star player, although he shouldn't be, concerned about Kurt Robinson, his top prospect, although he did struggle a little bit in low A ball, but I mean, geez, this guy looks really good if he can develop, but it's going to be a long road back to the top. As Nolan put it when we were talking about expanding to the 26th man, quote, "I barely have 25 MLB quality players, would be scraping the bottom of the barrel for the 26th. So for Nolan's sake, let's hope that we don't expand to the 26th man. And so now on to the next worst team in the league, the Washington Nationals, who barely edged out my Montreal Expos for that honor. And I really wanted to take a look at Billy Jackson, who, has this World Series ring, even though he was traded mid-2045 from the Mariners, still got that World Series ring from the Mariners, which is crazy. But I wanted to look at the advanced pitching stats here, because obviously he had a great season. And I just wanted to see how legit that was. And it looks like, the field independent pitching looks like some of the best of his career, maybe not supporting that 2.87 ERA. But, the biggest question that I have is will Mike pay the price to keep Billy Jackson? Because he's almost up for his contract, and you have to expect a guy, who's a 4-WAR player is going to expect something in the 15 to 20 million range, after the season he just had. So I think the biggest question, the biggest storyline for this Nationals team is, is Mike, is he going to pay the price to retain Billy Jackson? And I think that that's going to be something that, around the league we're going to watch. So now on to the third worst team. It's us, baby! Montreal Expos. Not a lot of hope on the horizon, admittedly, but I wanted to tell this story as a tale of 3 international lottery tickets. So we have this guy who was our scouting discovery, Juan Rivera. Could be a really good starter, but again, obviously 16 years old, way too hard to project how good he'll actually be. And then I spent a lot of money this past offseason, $7.3 million on Tohall, great nickname, Smooth, and Romo spent another $7.8 million on this guy. And I just, international prospects obviously are the biggest lottery ticket of them all. But, when you're a franchise like this, you have to take any risk you can. We're bottom budget. We're bottom of everything, basically. So you really have to try everything. So we'll see how this works, but my international tickets are how I hope to get back up to the top. And on to the next worst team, the Chicago White Sox. And I really wanted to talk about Robbie White, because I tried to convince, Bart to let me draft him, maybe swap picks, but he wouldn't budge, and it turns out that was probably a great decision for him. In short A ball, I mean, this kid absolutely killed it. You talk about a 316 batting average. I don't care if it's against, some bums in low A. This kid is already a 41 overall, and you look at these stats, so well-rounded and so developed already, or about to turn 22. But I think Bart has a really good franchise cornerstone to kind of build around. Not a lot else there, but I am very jealous of Bart for landing Robbie White. All right, on to the next team. We have the Rockies. And the Rockies are finally a team with some single-digit category rankings. And I know obviously it's Coors Field, home runs are flying out of here, but still, I think it's something worth talking about, and especially around Pat Moore, who had just an unreal season. And I don't know why it shows his pitching stats, because he's a much better hitter than a pitcher. Talk about a 326 average, 4.7 WAR, 40 home runs, and he's only got 2 years of major service. So I think that, the key is, how quickly can the Rockies surround Pat Moore with talent? I mean, they have Morales, who looks almost there, but really struggled in a short stint in AAA last season, hitting only 199 below the Mendoza line. So the question is, the Rockies have some offensive talent. Obviously, they have Pat Moore, but are they going to waste his best years? Because he's better than a 55, 56 potential guy, because he can really rake. So it's really up to the Rockies to see how they take advantage of that. On to the Yankees, who are our next team. Yankees over here. And the storyline here is, they might be in the deepest trouble of all, the bottom tier teams. And I say this as the Expos GM, so I hope you don't take this lightly. Because, they have a bottom 3 minor league system and really no true building blocks on the team. I mean, you could say Hurricane's a building block, but, I mean, he's getting up there in age, and I don't know, he had some injury concerns this season. And you never like to see that from a star player that you're really banking your hopes on. And I know, of course, the Yankees have a huge budget and the financial flexibility is great, but in a highly competitive online league, that doesn't always equate to top talent, and I just don't see the development there. I mean, you look at a guy, your best guys are barely, 50 potential guys. It's just it's not sustainable because in an online league you have to develop, and I worry for the Yankees, but we'll see what they do in the offseason to shore up the team. All right, on to the next team, the Havana Sugar Kings, and this is a team that I think could really make the jump next season, maybe even to being a fringe playoff team. That's how confident I am in the build of this team, because as you can see, a pretty solid hitting team from the rankings. They have some good building pieces, but what I'm most excited about is their 3-pronged AAA pitchers. You've got Tobias Roviva, I don't know, Jose Cordova, and you have Jose Moreno, all who could theoretically be on the big league roster next season and provide an instant spark to the team. And I think that the beauty of this team is its clear weaknesses is pitching, and you look at these top 6 prospects, and they are all pitching prospects. I think that's so important because Havana's kind of realized that pitching prospects can be a lottery. But so, they're going to buy as many lottery tickets as they can, and now they have 3 guys coming up at the same time with 3 other guys around the same, projected major league timeline that are going to reach the majors maybe after, or could replace one of these guys if they flame out. So, Havana, if they get a little bit more development from their 3 AAA pitchers, I think they could be very seriously, very serious, sneaky threat. So good work by their GM, Chris. Now on to our next team. We are looking at the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I just got to say, I love the Pittsburgh Pirates and Tom, mostly because he traded me 3 very solid prospects for a starter in Mike Bell that only ended up pitching 41 innings for him due to injury. Yikes. And, the Pirates concern me a little bit because there's a solid amount of money that's committed to guys, who are good but not great. And when you couple that with a budget that's in the bottom half of the league, it's not a winning recipe because, these guys are too good to cut or maybe even think about trading but you don't have the flexibility to add a real game changer. So I think that I don't really see the path forward for Tom, but I would love him to surprise me because, I just don't see the development there. From his minor league system, and again, a lot of money committed to guys that, just are good, solid contributors, but are not great. All right, moving on, and we are going to the Los Angeles Dodgers, second to last team here in our bottom 10 section of this series. And so the Dodgers are an interesting team because they have an unreal amount of money coming off the books. They have over 80 million coming off the books, which is unreal. But there is a lot of holes in their roster. I mean, you look and there's no one thing that this team really excels at, and I think that what's really it's like I was talking about before with the Yankees. Sure, they have that flexibility. They have a ton of money that they can go out and spend, but more than having that money, it's being able to make smart decisions and pass on players that really aren't going to help the team. And we're going to see how the Dodgers are able to do that because at this point it's looking a little shaky. I don't really know how this roster is going to turn out, but I think free agency above for how it's going to impact all these teams, I think the Dodgers are primed to really take advantage of it. So the final team in this short episode is Atlanta. And I think Atlanta is so interesting because after free agents file, the Braves look to have only 1 or 2 players over 30 and a minuscule $78 million on the books. And so their budget is the 3rd lowest in the league, so it's almost a necessity for their payroll to be that low. But if they begin to make a couple splashes in the starting pitching department and begin building a team around this, true stud hitter in Esteban Rodriguez, I think they'll be in fantastic shape because, while this isn't a team that excels in any category, again, they have a bunch of players that are almost major league ready. You look at their top prospects and they're almost all in AAA. That can be reinforcements for this major league team, and you really think that this could be a team that maybe with a few good signings, their bullpen looks to be in pretty good shape with that 7th ERA in the league. And so if they get a few more starting pitching, maybe if Eddie Lacy kind of returns to form and has a season like he had in 2047 as opposed to his past season, maybe that'll be enough for, again, the Braves to sneak into the playoffs. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope it wasn't too long. I will get to the rest of the league in future episodes. Again, the next episode being the middle tier, and then the final episode being the big boys, the playoff teams. And I hope you enjoy listening to me talk PSD because I've really loved preparing for this episode. I've loved learning more about the league. So hopefully that's good. And